All right, so welcome to the elevator pitch. I think we all know what an elevator pitch is.
That's perfect.
And yeah, right, we're in an elevator. And today's guest on the elevator pitch, which we're honored to have, is Bob Fix. Bob is a partner at William Blair, Barron's top advisors, partner for 47 years at one of the historic firms in the world. Great hair, wears a suit every day. Most importantly, he's kind of one of the founding fathers of KWILL Merchant Advisors, in that he has believed in us and has been one of our lead investors and a lead thought leader. Well, how is it that you've been at a place for 47 years, or 54 years?
The firm, William Blair, in 1970, when I joined them, was almost impossible to get a job in. And one of the reasons they said that they couldn't hire me when I first went over there was that they didn't have a desk. They didn't have any room. They didn't think I was a bad guy. They just physically didn't have a place to put me.
Right.
They had like 40 people. So, of course, when you're in our business, what Hugh and I do, if you're used to rejection, and rejection is just the beginning when you're doing this. So I just kept being like a bad penny, I guess, and coming back, and I think it was maybe 6 months later, they gave me an offer. They offered me $1,500 a month, and I thought that was very generous, frankly. However, I said, I'll take $1,200. And the guy looks at me, and I said, the reason I'll take $1,200 is because I know I can do commission level business that will cover my draw. And in my heart of hearts, I've always known that if you're a variable expense in a business, you have job security. You will be able to sustain yourself, and then you can build off of that. And I knew there was an extraordinary platform at William Blair that I could use, and that was the beginning. And you know, that was how I think I've been able to hang on.
Talk a little bit about your background and kind of what led you to William Blair. I mean, how did you grow up? Where are you from?
Yeah, I actually grew up on the east side of Cleveland, and my dad, I think he got maybe past the 10th grade, but was a tough guy, especially coming in off the Navy, and he was tough on me. But one of the things I started doing at a pretty young age was caddy. I loved caddying.
Nice.
There was something about the challenge of working the member, and ingratiating yourself, because you wanted a tip. You knew the rate was X, but it was the extra, the tip, that you wanted to work for. And I loved that idea. And so that kind of was an early stage. I think I was like 10 or 12 years old. I hung around the caddy yard and finally got to caddy, and I liked it, and I was good at it, because then I had better eyesight. I can follow the ball. But the idea was to ingratiate yourself and do a good job for the member, for who you were caddying for. And if they appreciated it, they would give you a generous gratuity tip. And I think that sort of stuck in my head early on.
Did you caddy for
Arnold
Palmer?
Yeah. He wasn't Arnold Palmer yet.
He wasn't Arnold Palmer yet? Yeah, when was that?
It was in 1954.
Yeah?
I was 14 years old. And I was hiding from the caddy master. It was on a Sunday afternoon. I didn't want to go out anymore, you know? And he comes back, and he goes, Fix, you're going out again. It's like 4 o'clock on a Sunday, you know?
Yeah.
And I went, oh, Rocky. No, Rocky's still a Sano. And how do you remember this 70 years later? But anyway, some things in life you don't forget.
Yeah.
So he says, the member, I'm not even caddying for the member, I'm caddying for his guest.
Yeah.
And the member was this sports writer. He was a really cool guy. His name was Art Brooks. and he wrote for the Cleveland Press, I think. And he was a pretty renowned sports writer, member of the club, and he's bringing out this young guy.
Right.
He's 24 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm caddying for him, but so what? You know, it's I just want to go home and eat. And now I've got 3-4 more hours of.
Like, I just want a sandwich. I just want a sandwich.
So he turns to me and he says, the first hole is there's a directional flag and there's a dog leg to the left.
Yeah.
And in the dog leg, there's these crabapple trees.
Right.
And he says, which way is the dog leg? And I said, sir, being respectful as I could, always working for that tip, you know. I said, you know, you're best served by just going for that directional flag.
Right.
So he talks and he says, and he asked me again, he says, is it the dog leg to the left or right? And I said, well, actually, it's to the left.
Yeah.
So he tees off.
Uh-huh.
You know, he's got these long arms, you know.
Right.
The guy's 24 years old, you know.
So he was in his prime.
And he tees off, and I mean, these crab trees are like, the ball's still going, you know, over the crabapple orchard, you know. And the ball hasn't even started to crest yet, you know. And I'm going, did I just see this shot?
You're like, who is this guy?
What the hell's going on here?
Oh, that's good. That's good. Did you get a good tip?
Well, the member paid me, and it wasn't over the top, but it was generous.
Oh,
I remember.
that's great.
Like if you got, the rate was $1.75 for a B caddy. It was $2 for an A caddy, and if you got $3, you usually got $2.50.
Yeah.
But if you got $3, you were in hog heaven. And then I went to college, Miami University, Oxford, Ohio, and graduated. It was a little bit of a struggle, but got my way through that. And then I don't know what prompted me, but right after college, I enlisted in the Marine Corps. Never heard a shot fired in anger. Served in the reserves for 6 years. I got out in 1969, and I had, during that period, while in the reserves, I worked for a New York brokerage firm called Goodbody. And Goodbody was like the Wild West.
Right.
It was, I mean, you had to lock up your account book at night. This
didn't sound like there were a lot of good bodies at Goodbody.
This was the devil take the hindmost. I mean, it was a tough spot, but some great young guys, and the founder, Harold Goodbody, ended up being barred from the industry. I mean, this was a tough spot, and he was a gentleman and all, but we broke the capital requirements, and it was getting tough. It was during the late '60s. Things were volatile, to say the least, and Vietnam War was raging, and the firm went under. It was taken over by Merrill Lynch in 1970, I think. It was indemnified by $25 million by the whole community, and there was a story at the firm about the best firm in Chicago was William Blair.
Right.
But it was hard to get a job there, and so I went down there and I kind of basically cold called and went in and finally got a meeting with the partner who ran a sales group, and that was, kept badgering him and ended up getting a job. And it was a recession. It was a bear market. Business was really bad.
Right.
But the firm had a reputation for doing really high quality IPOs and new business. And first deal we ever did was Herman Miller, which was over in Zeeland, Michigan. And Herman Miller was a blue chip, small office products company. They created the Ames chair. They were, and Mr. Blair was on the board. These were such good businesses that you weren't. There's an old expression: stocks are sold, they're not bought. But these were such good companies that there was demand for the companies. So that, and when you had that reputation for placing really high quality, well priced, small growth businesses, which is what the firm did and is still doing till this day, you know, all these years later. It's been a joy to work there. It's been a joy to be associated with the people
and so, you know, the way that you spoke about William Blair so reverentially makes me think that, you know, who are some of your personal heroes? You know, earlier when I said that you're on our Mount Rushmore of people that we love and respect, I mean, who affected your career, and who are some of the people that you look up to?
There was a man who's actually still kicking. He's 92.
God bless him.
And his name was Ned Janata. Ned was a banker, a merchant banker, and there was always this, by Mr. Blair, always this sort of private equity, private investment cult almost at the firm, and it almost had a whisper characteristic, you know, and the first deal. So Ned's running the firm, and he comes forward with an LBO, a leveraged buyout, which I didn't even know what LBO actually stood for.
Right.
But everyone's going, "Hey, we're doing an LBO," you know.
Sounds good. Let's do it. Right.
And it was for Sanford, which was a private company. They were a company that made ink, but they invented the Sharpie.
Yeah, I was going to say the pens,
pens,
right?
Yeah. You know, and no one knew much about Sharpies or those highlighters, I guess. And so we ended up buying. They put a bunch of debt on the books, and we ended up putting some equity into it, and that was in like 82 or 83, and it was a monster home run.
Yeah.
It ended up. It was.
You say no one knew much about Sanford in 82, 83?
No, they didn't. It was
incredible.
A pretty, quiet, small private company.
Wow.
And the owner wanted out, so they did put all this debt on it and a little equity, which we assisted the buyout team. And the long and short of that was that we made 30 times our money.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay.
And so at the firm, the tranche of partners that invested in that were known as Sanford partners.
Right.
Because they were semi-rich.
Right.
Everyone else came in later. And that of course created what's next? You know, what could we? You know, there were several things that were next that weren't anywhere near as good. But Ned became pretty legendary.
We'll talk about your approach, because I know that you've seen a lot of deals.
You know, I think that I get very enthusiastic about people that are creative, that are fun, that work hard, and I think they attract other people into their lives like them. And that was the way with Ned, Janata, I just spoke of, and there were numerous other people that the firm attracted that just attracted people. They had a nature about them that was very dynamic, and so it's like there's an old kind of trite example. It's like a golf foursome. If you're not a very good golfer, but you're playing with 3 other really good golfers, you tend to play better.
Right.
you know? And when you're around people that are creative and fun and work hard, you tend to get taken up.
You want to gravitate toward that.
Yes, you get swept up in that style and the enthusiasm, and that was the atmosphere around at William Blair, where you had people that, and one of those people was another guy by the name of Dick Kippart, who I used to like to say, could sell ice cubes to Eskimos. He was, as I used to like to say about Dick, often wrong but never in doubt.
That's not a bad way to be. That's not a bad way to be.
And this guy was just a pretty amazing character, and I spoke of him earlier where he went to, he got the wrestling scholarship and the like, and but he was a workaholic guy, and his shirt was always hanging out, and he was everywhere and traveling and doing business, and he was just a classic rainmaker guy, and he brought in a deal back in the 80s that truly, I used to say to him, I said, the greatest wealth creation that's ever happened at William Blair Company, you brought in, and he did. It was a company that came in which was really fun from the standpoint, they had a terrible business model.
Right.
And they did what they called check verification, which was, the little ink on the check and
watermarks.
And it was a commodity business. It was a no-go. But somehow, Dick meets this guy at Union Planters Bank who kind of invented or discovered credit card verification. So he buys into this company as like a shell, and they became a credit card processor. The banks thought this was high tech, so they didn't want anything to do with it. So this company was a credit card processor, and they started processing credit cards, which right at the time when people were mailing out credit cards, to people, and they were just, cash was king, checks, and then credit cards were just starting to take off. And he found this company, and we banked it, and it was not a particularly successful deal. But then when they brought in the credit card business, it sort of had a story, and their business started to really take off. And so we started. Everyone was just like, whoa, we got a secret, great little company, and kept buying it. We all bought it, and got way overloaded. Doing all the portfolio, the opposite of good portfolio management. We were all overweighted, and but the stock, it was the #1 performing stock in the 90s. It compounded at 53% a year for 10 years. It was a company called Concord EFS. It was out of Memphis, Tennessee, and it was taken out by First Data back in, I think, 2000 thereabouts, but it was a major home run, and Dick, who was on the board, really owned a lot of it. And so all the partners owned a lot of it. Because he was, when a person is really persuasive and they end up being right, it's like fuel on the fire,
That's right. Throwing some oxygen out there.
So and we ended up owning so much of it that by regulatory reasons we couldn't buy anymore because it was too concentrated with it, and our clients owned it too. As did, of course, the partners and everything. And then in '98, they decided they were going to sell some stock. The company was going to sell some stock, and it was such a large deal, way larger than William Blair could handle. So in order to get our capital level up all the partners were requested, it wasn't required, but were requested to take every bit of equity that they had and pledge it to the partnership.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah, it was a risky deal.
That's a hair raiser.
It was a hair raiser. We had to put everything we had into the firm. And no, we were paid a decent stipend on the interest. It was like for a couple, 3 months.
Yeah.
Then we still didn't have enough capital. So then we bring in Goldman Sachs to help us co-manage the deal in '98. And the deal, it was still a pretty fresh story, even after 10 years, you know. But the story was great, and then we got the deal off. But you know, everything in that industry, in most industries, you know, if it gets crowded, things get too easy, whatever, it ends up, and then, you know, then you have a little thing called macroeconomics, which throws things off, like interest rates and recessions.
Beyond your control, the unknown unknowns, unknown knowns.
Exactly.
You know, one thing that I always love about you is your wit and witticisms. You know, some of your sayings. Is a closed mouth does not get fed. You know, it's
a great expression by Warren Buffett. You know, be greedy when everyone is fearful, and be fearful when everyone's greedy.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of his truisms, you know. And but I mean, I work. You know, we're on a team now, and fee-based and wealth managers, and I like the role because you're really trying to help people and do the right things with people and grow their capital and make their lives better. That's, you know.
Right.
And I like to tell them, I said, look, this is a means to an end. This isn't, you know, you just don't run around counting your money all the time. Right. This is for your retirement, better life, educate your children, your grandchildren, live better, help people, be philanthropic, you know, but I work with this guy who I have great respect for. He's Harvard educated, certified financial analyst. You may have met him, and he, you know, we'll talk about we're like a two-man investment committee for our team, and we'll talk with each other, and he'll end up by saying, you know, Bob, I don't like to lose money.
Right.
And I said, listen, Matt, no one likes to lose money. We're not starting out to lose.
Right.
But if you take some risk, you're going to have some mistakes.
Right.
And it's a very hard
You can't win if you don't play.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. Yeah. And so we're not going to be foolhardy, and we're not going to be crazy and not careful about capital, but this is something that we have to, you know, come to grips with.
And so, you know, because we're in the elevator, Bob Fix, in 30 seconds or less, who are you? What are you about?
Oh, wow. That's a penetrating question.
Huh?
I really want to project love. I want to love my neighbor. I want to love God. And I want to project love, because I think if one person does that, we can all start to get rid of the hatred in this world.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
I think that's the key to our savior of our humanity.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting when I asked that question, but I can tell you, I don't know that was the answer.
I didn't know sure what it was I was going to answer.
But no, I love that.
It's a very penetrating question. What is it? Who do you want to be?
Yeah.